Okay, we're going to try this again with a bit of recording on this. I'm hoping that you have the ability to see me and this shared screen thingy. We're still figuring out the technology. So with that, today we are talking about the words mean, median, and mode. And when I think about mean, I like to think of it as the average. The average is the mean. And at one point, there were 2.5 kids in the average American household. So how do I remember the average? I remember, well, the average house had 2.5 kids. How do I remember its mean? It is mean when we cut a kid in half. Let's not go cutting children in pieces. Let's just agree that we won't be cutting living things into pieces. That doesn't work very well. So with that, I can remember the mean and the average is the same thing. In math, we like to call it X bar. So when you see an X bar, that's what we're talking about. It's a good thing to know. All right, so how I find the mean is I take the data points and I add them up using their sum. Sorry, we've got a new pointer thing. So using their sum, we then divide by the number of data points. So if I look at this, I've got 0.1, 2, 3, and 4. So the number n is equal to 4 for this. And so what I do when I'm talking about this, I'm just going to do the sum of xi n over n, or the sum of the individual parts divided by the number of data points. So here in this example, they took and they said, okay, here we have 79 plus 86 plus 82 plus 93. They got 340, and that would be divided by 4. We do the same thing here. This is just fancy speak for the exact same thing. We're just going to take all of the data points, find their sum, then we're going to divide them by the total number. So don't let this scare you. And remember, if you're taking a GED test, you can find this on the formulas sheet. Once we divide, we find the average. The average, of course, is our X bar, it is our mean, or it is our average. The reason we like to use average is it gives me an idea of what I'm looking at. So let's say I'm looking to rent a home right now. If I were to look in my neighborhood for a house to rent, I'd be looking anywhere from $1,200. Oh, 12,000. Yeah, we'll not do that. $1,200 up to probably about 1,900. And how I find that is I look at how many houses are for rent, how much each one rents for per month, and then I'm going to take and add those, divide by the total number, and I'm going to find an average for an area. This is a very, very useful thing when you want to get an idea of what's going on. Because if we take all the data for population and put it under the same curve, we're going to get it to line up beautifully and not have to worry about those kind of things. So now let's talk about the median. The median's where people end up on the freeway every time snow happens here. People drive way too fast, and so they're going down the road and they end up where all the trees are, right here in the middle, in the median. The median is just that. It's the very center of the data set. If I line up the data set from lowest to highest in the items, I can then find the median. The median gives me that exact middle. Now, if there's an odd number, I'm just going to take that number, divide it by 2. And so let's say there were 3 data points. I'd divide by 2, I'd get 1.5, meaning the second item would be the one that I use for my median. Now let's say that it's 4 data points. When it's even, if we get 4 divided by 2, that's just equal to 2. We're going to take and actually find the average of the second and third data point. So we look at whatever our number is and we use that to know how to find the median. On this, it's very important that we list data from lowest to highest, smallest to greatest. If we don't list it in order, we can't find these things that we're looking for. Here we go. So let's find the median of these quiz scores right here. And my first step, of course, is going to be to look at that and go, oh, it wants me to find something. I've got data here. I'm going to organize it. So I'm going to start by saying, okay, 2 seems to be the lowest number there. There's no 3s. There's 1, 4. Okay, so 4. Then I'm going to say, okay, next comes 5. There's 1, 2 5s. Then I'm going to say, is there 6? No. 7? No. 8? Yes, there's 3 of those. Oh, I missed that 6. Look at that. 6. Then 3 8s. And then 9. Then 10. And when you're doing this by hand, that's why I like to mark them out as I go. So I can catch a mistake. Like I almost didn't have that 6 in there. Now I'm going to count up the number of data points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. Because it's coming out without a 0.5, I'm looking at it's going to be the 5th and 6th item, their average. So I go, okay, item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure what happened there. Now I'm going to say, okay, we're going to take that 5th and 6th item, these two, and we're going to find their average. And so we're going to say 6 plus 8 divided by 2. 6 plus 8 is 14. 14 divided by 2, that equals to 7. So I know the median is 7. That's the very center of the data set. Now, where median can be useful, let's imagine that I'm looking at going into a career that they say, hey, the average wage is $35 an hour. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And then they say, okay, now with that, the median wage is $10.35 an hour. Well, the median should be the very middle, and here we're at 35 as the average, and we're saying the median's 10.35. That tells me that there must be some really high salaries up towards this end that are affecting the data, and the average isn't as useful to me to figuring out what I'll be starting at, what I'll likely make. I mean, do I have to work in an industry for 20 years to make the 35 an hour? It's going to cause me to look closely at it. All right, next comes mode, and mode I like to think of as pi a la mode. It's just whatever shows up the most. Now on that, you can have different types of modes. You can have something have no mode. That's perfectly fine. There are people who don't want ice cream on their pie. We're okay with them. They're weird. They don't like ice cream. That's fine, whatever. Then you have one mode. Then you'll have 2 modes, which is what we call bimodal, like a bicycle. And then you have 3, which is trimodal. And then at 4 and more, we're like, hey, it's multimodal. Multimodal. How we find the mode is we just look at what item appears the most. So if I'm looking at this data set up here, and we've got this one, it's beautiful. The item that appears the most is 8. Therefore, the mode for this data set is 8. There's 3 of them. Now let's say I have 2 things with 3 of that number. it can have more than one mode. It's just what everyone chooses most often. All right, so shall we do a little bit of practice? I think we should. Let's find the mean, median, and mode of each data set. And of course, I'm dealing with data, so I can't help myself. My brain's programmed. We're going to go least to greatest before I even start with anything. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. There were 2 2s. 1, 2. No, I need to erase that and put a 2 there. 1, 2, 2. All right. 3, 4, and 6. Now that I've got that, I can find some things right off the bat. I'm going to look for my X bar is equal to, that's my average, the mean, or I can look for my median, or I can look for my mode. So let's start off with the mode, just because that one is, to me, it's popping out here. I have 2 2s. That's all I've got that has more than one of the same. So its mode is going to be 2. The median, well, let's see here. How many data points do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. That's going to be the 1, 2, 3, the third and the fourth, their average. So I'll say, okay, 2 plus 3 divided by 2. And from that, I'm going to get 5 divided by 2. That gives me 2.5. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the average. And I'm going to say, okay, 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 6. All that's going to be divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. And now I'm going to add that together. And if I look at this, I've got 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. 17, 18. So I have 18 over 6. And remember, folks, this thing is a division bar. So 18 divided by 6 gives me 3. So I can say that my mean, my average is 3. When I'm doing things that have larger values, so see how these have all these zeros? I'm going to play with that and say, hey, you know what? I can keep all the extra zeros, but at the end of the day, they're going to go back in. I'm just going to shortcut it by saying, hey, look here, we have 28, 32. So 28, 32, 40, 65, and 140. Now I've got them listed lowest to highest, and I've taken off 1,000. So I think of it as me having 1,000 out here that I've just factored out of each one, and I'm holding it off here, off to the side while I do this work. I can do that, then at the end I can put it back in, and it makes my life so much easier. So now let's see here. I want to find the mean, median, and mode. There is no mode. All right. The median, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So with there being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I just say, okay, 5 divided by 2 is equal to 2.5. Therefore, the third item right there, 40,000. So our median is 40,000. Now I'm going to take a look at this and I'm going to say to myself, okay, what can I do here? How do I do the average? Oh yeah, I add up these items to get their sum and I take their sum, divide it by the number of items. So 28 plus 32 is going to give me, well, if I take that 2 over to that 8, that's a 10. So it's the same as 40 plus 20. That's going to be 60, then 40, 65, and 140. And if I take this 60 and 40, that's 100, 65, 140. If I put these two together, I'm going to get 100 and 205. So that's equal to 305, and we're going to divide that by the total data points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that will give us our answer as to what our mean is. So now I'm going to say, okay, 305 divided by 5. And 5 will go into 3 0 times, 5 will go into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 equals 30. Draw the line, change the sign. 0, bring down a 5. 5 will go into 5 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Draw the line, change the sign, remainder 0. So the X bar is equal to 61,000. Notice if you look at this in the data set, lowest to highest, notice how quickly it starts to go up. The average got pulled this way by that 140,000. We can pull data to the left or to the right based on it. And this is where a median will give you a more accurate picture. So like if this was talking, say, prices of a vacation timeshare package, that'll get you a better idea and indication. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate your time. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know. Don't forget we do tutoring on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. And we do classes Monday through Thursday following Iron County School District calendar at 10 a.m. Feel free to check out videos and things in the Canvas. I am here to help. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. What's up?